Hello, my name is Gunjan Bueller, and this is my article assignment presentation on India's soaring food prices that have put staple foods like tomatoes and onions out of reach for many families. So, to start with the summary, there are certain foods essential to Indian cuisine like tomatoes and onions, but soaring prices leave them inaccessible for many families in India, forcing them to cut back or skip buying the ingredients altogether. Raj Kumari in the picture on the slide is a migrant worker whose family is one of 80 that have lived for decades in a slum in the Majnukatilla area of northwestern New Delhi. Soaring prices have led Kumari and her neighbors to make some really hard choices when they plan their meals in terms of cooking oil, sacks of flour to make roti, and even poultry, which have all risen in prices. So ultimately, they have to shop very carefully because of the soaring food inflation, which is the cultural impact of this issue. In 2023, inflation and northern floods have devastated the year's harvest in India and sent prices of almost every part of a meal to record highs. During the summer, tomatoes rose from 20 rupees to 100 rupees, which is equivalent to 25 cents to $1.25, while onions rose from 30 to 180 rupees, which is equivalent to 35 cents to $2.10, stretching families' budgets to the max. Another internal pressure involves the unusual rainfall, including deadly floods in the country's northern regions, together with the effects of El Niño, which is a periodic natural warming in the Pacific Ocean that causes extreme weather around the world. This has increased the prices of most groceries. Weather patterns have been very erratic, where some parts receive a lot of rainfall and others receive much less. So, this unpredictability is detrimental for perishable foods like tomatoes. To cool prices, the government is dealing with external factors like limiting export of staple foods like rice and onions, while also importing tomatoes from the nearby country Nepal to increase domestic supply due to the price spike in tomatoes in India. Additionally, the war in Ukraine has also caused an increase in prices largely towards vegetables and cooking oil, which has forced Kumari to now cook all the meals in the day at once to cut back on every ingredient, as we can see in the picture on the slide. Kumari and her family is one example of the many low-income families who are being negatively impacted through inflation and other factors as their food culture is being restricted to budget-friendly meals. The economic, political, social, and cultural aspects of India's soaring food prices all contribute to food insecurity, and even when low-income families receive about 33 pounds of wheat from the government every month, it doesn't even last them more than 10 days until they must revisit the rising prices in the market for the rest of their food. On top of that, Kumari also mentioned how her work as a day laborer has dwindled, and she has spent most of the last 6 months taking care of her family compared to all the work her and her husband had in the early years in New Delhi. Ultimately, these are the unfortunate outcomes and perspectives of low-income families in India, as soaring food prices are putting staple foods out of reach for many families. And this is my reference for the article. Thank you so much for listening.